All right, let's dive into a topic that, well, a lot of us have probably felt but maybe didn't have a name for. We're talking about the existential crisis. That deep, kind of unsettling feeling you get when you start thinking about your place in the universe. We're going to break down what it really is.
It almost always starts with a question like this, doesn't it? So simple, but it hits so hard. If you've ever been wide awake at 3 a.m., just staring at the ceiling and thinking, what is all this for? Really? Then yeah, you've been right at the doorstep of an existential crisis. So what are we actually talking about here? Well, on paper, it's this intense inner conflict where you're forced to wrestle with the biggest questions imaginable: meaning, purpose, who you are, and there are no easy answers in the back of the book. I think it's better to see it less as a problem you have to solve and more of a profound human experience you have to navigate.
And this feeling is not new, not by a long shot. It's got deep, deep roots in philosophy. A couple of centuries ago, some brilliant thinkers started to really dissect this modern kind of anxiety, giving us the language to talk about what happens when all our old traditional beliefs start to fade.
Let's meet the Big Four, the pioneers who really shaped how we think about this stuff. You've got Soren Kierkegaard, Friedrich Nietzsche, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Albert Camus. Each of them came at this problem of meaning from a totally different angle, but their ideas really built the foundation for everything we understand today.
And what's so cool is how their ideas connect. Kierkegaard called that anxious feeling the dizziness of freedom, what happens when you have limitless choice. Then Nietzsche comes along and famously declares, God is dead, basically saying our old moral compass is broken, so we have to build a new one ourselves. Sartre gave us existence precedes essence, which is a fancy way of saying we're born as blank slates, and our choices are what define us. And finally, Camus focused on the absurd, that constant struggle between our desperate search for meaning and a universe that just stays silent.
So if you boil it all down, here's the central theme they were all getting at. Once the old guidebooks for how to live, things like religion or rigid traditions, start to lose their power, we're left with this huge, kind of scary, but also incredibly liberating responsibility. We have to create our own purpose. Okay, so let's jump from philosophy to psychology, because modern psychology takes all these big ideas and applies them to our actual mental health. It helps us understand what triggers this crisis and, what it really feels like to go through it. And those feelings can be completely overwhelming. We're talking about this gnawing anxiety about the big questions, a real sense of confusion about who you even are anymore. It can lead to an obsession with purpose or death, and often it just makes you want to pull back from everything because it all feels kind of pointless. Now, this is a really, really important distinction to make. An existential crisis can feel a lot like depression, and sometimes they even happen at the same time, but their roots are different. Clinical depression is often tied to things like neurochemistry and biology. An existential crisis, on the other hand, comes from a place of philosophical doubt. It's your conscious mind grappling with the very nature of meaning itself. So what usually sets this whole thing off? Well, a lot of the time, it's a major life event. A sudden loss or a big health scare can totally shatter the way you see the world. Or it could be a big transition, moving away to college, hitting a big birthday like 40 or 50, that forces you to stop and reevaluate everything. And sometimes it's not a big bang at all. It's a slow burn. Just years of feeling stuck in a job or a relationship that isn't right until you just can't ignore it anymore. There's this brilliant psychologist, Irvin Yalom, who came up with a really helpful way to think about this. He said that at the very core of all our anxiety, there are 4 fundamental truths about being human. He called them the existential givens. And this really gets to the heart of it. According to Yalom, every single one of us, sooner or later, has to face 4 hard truths: our own death, the overwhelming freedom we have to make choices, the fact that we are ultimately alone in our own minds, and the lack of any built-in, universal meaning to life. He argued that our struggle with these givens is what fuels an existential crisis. Okay, that's a lot of heavy stuff, I know. But here's the good news. We understand the problem, but how do we get through it? There are absolutely concrete, practical things you can do to navigate this doubt and start building a life that actually feels meaningful to you. Let's think of it like a toolkit for finding your way. It's all about reframing how you think, learning to accept the tough feelings, reaching out to other people, and, this is the big one, actively creating the meaning you're searching for. Let's look at each of these. First up, reframe and act. So that voice in your head saying life has no meaning, you can't just think your way out of that. You have to challenge it with action. Do something small but purposeful. Volunteer for a cause you care about. Finally learn that skill you've been putting off. Pick up a new passion. See, purpose isn't some grand thing you find. It's something you build, one small, meaningful action at a time. Number 2, practice acceptance. Now, this one might sound a little strange. Why would you accept feeling anxious? But here's the thing. Fighting those feelings often just makes them stronger. Mindfulness is all about learning to just sit with those uncomfortable emotions, the fear, the uncertainty, and just watch them without judging them. It's amazing how, when you stop wrestling with them, they start to lose their power over you. Third, and this is so important, seek connection. Seriously, you are not the only person who has ever felt this way. Talking about it with friends, family, or a therapist can be a game changer. Just sharing what you're going through makes you realize it's a normal human experience. Plus, hearing someone else's perspective can open up doors you never even saw. And finally, number 4, create your own meaning. This takes us right back to where we started with those philosophers. Meaning isn't some treasure you're going to dig up. It's a house you have to build. So pour your energy into the things that genuinely feel important to you. Maybe it's your relationships, your community, creating art. Whatever it is, that's where purpose is born. So let's try to look at this whole thing from a different angle. What if an existential crisis isn't a sign that you're broken? What if it's not a breakdown, but a breakthrough? What if it's a signal that the old you isn't working anymore and you're ready for something deeper, something more authentic? That discomfort you're feeling? It could be a catalyst for growth. It's like a necessary push to get you to shed the parts of your life that aren't real anymore and to start consciously building a life that truly lines up with who you are. In a way, it's a call to become more yourself. And that really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Is this period of intense questioning an ending? Or is it actually the messy, uncomfortable, but absolutely essential start of a brand new beginning? The kind where you get to build a more conscious and meaningful life? Well, as the existentialist would tell us, that choice is entirely up to you.